Hello everyone, I'm Aseem Jakhar, founder of Exploity, and today we are going to be talking about AI safety and security concerns. I have with me Nathan Hamiel, Senior Director of Research at Kudelski Security. Welcome to ISMG Studio, Nathan.
Thank you for having me.
So what are you up to at Black Hat this year, Nathan?
Well, mostly running around from place to place. I was very busy. We had the AI security meetup, and then I had a couple briefings, and then I was part of delivering the lock note. So I actually, when I said running around, I literally had a hole in my sock from running around. But it was good because we had lots of conversations. One important conversation that we brought to Black Hat. So I'm on the Black Hat review board, and I'm the AI machine learning and data science track lead for Black Hat. So one of the conversations we wanted to bring was around AI safety, because there seems to be a shift in the industry where security professionals are becoming more involved in things that they weren't traditionally involved in. And one of the things that you see with upcoming security, upcoming regulations around AI is the requirement to do both safety and security testing. And we all know that security professionals are very good at testing. It's in our DNA, it's kind of what we do. So there's kind of this shift. So we wanted to highlight some things that may be coming down the road that security professionals should be prepared for.
So can you, what exactly is AI safety from your perspective? Can you list down some critical safety concerns?
Sure. So there's the kind of the more academic definition of what constitutes AI safety, and that would be, things that would cause, harm, which is also another vague word. So let me give you an example. So say you have an algorithm. It may not be very, maybe it may not be easy to understand how you get a result back out. So for example, you may have an algorithm that determines whether somebody should get a loan or not. You may have an algorithm that decides whether somebody should get a job or not. And based on certain features of the data and the inputs, it could be biased in some way. So it could discriminate against certain groups of individuals, certain genders, and things like that. So these are things that we can test for and try to be proactive about. But what I like to get people to think of more broadly is to take a zoom out. So let's do a non-academic definition of AI safety. If you just think about whether a product is safe to use, right? So is this thing that I'm using safe to use? And if you think about it, security plays a foundational role in that, and whether something is safe to use. So if it's a financial application and you're putting your money in there and it's insecure, it's not safe to use. If it doesn't respect your privacy, so if the application that you're using to put very sensitive data in is now taking that data and selling it to third parties. If it's not aligned to your best interests, or if it's not reliable. I mean, those are kind of four foundational concepts to me that define whether a product is safe to use. And as these AI tools get closer to us, right, as we get personal assistance and we connect more data together, it's going to be fundamentally important that these systems are safe to use, because some of our most sensitive data is inside of them.
From security perspective, I know we discussed that, we tend to throw, as you mentioned, we tend to throw away the rule book. And I'm totally on board with that idea, because whenever there's a new technology that comes on board, for some reason, everyone forgets security, only for that technology. So what's your take on that? Like, why do we tend to do it? And can you give some examples from AI perspective?
Yeah, so that's something I've called in the past. I've called it the emerging technology paradigm. So whenever a new technology comes along, we seem to think that we need a whole new rule book. Like everything we've learned in the past needs to be thrown away. We need to start from scratch. I don't really know why we do that. I think there's some excitement sometimes, and there's some hype, and maybe there's I remember this happened with blockchain, like blockchain is secure because it uses cryptography. That was a real thing, like people believed that. So I think there's a mixture of issues that kind of leads to that perspective. But the good news is, if we take what we already know, we can get most of the way there, and then we can look at the gap and say, okay, what's left? So one of the things that's kind of concerning in this world is that we're trying to we're doing things that we know don't always end well. So for example, when we're talking about companies doing things with quote unquote AI, they're mixing different types of data together. So for example, sensitive and non-sensitive data mixed with trusted and untrusted data. So we know that that's not a recipe for success. We know that there's going to be issues there. So I really think it's incumbent upon companies to kind of take a step back and say, what do we hope we actually get out of this? And is it worth the risk? So with everything AI or any emerging technology related, it's always good to understand what is the use case. The use case will define how important it is. So the use case tells you what is the cost of failure. So if that system fails, what are the negative impacts? And sometimes it might not matter if you have a simple chatbot. It might be embarrassing if your chatbot recommends a competitor's product over yours, or it gets something wrong in the frequently asked questions. It's not going to be, the end of the world. Now, however, if you have a healthcare use case or a financial use case that causes major impact, or in worst case scenarios, if people actually die, you have to be much more careful about how you prescribe technologies to those high risk scenarios. And I think these are things we know, we've learned this, so we should, kind of go back to basics and say, okay, what are we trying to do here? And is this a good idea?
So speaking of use case, I want you to talk about deepfakes. What kind of threat do they pose? And where are we in terms of detection?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So I'm probably labeled a bit of a contrarian on deepfakes as a misinformation tactic. So what that means is using a fake video or some sort of fake image or something to convince people that something actually happened. I call those narrative evidence attacks. So I have a narrative, this happened, here's the evidence that proves that it happened. I've never really thought that that was overly effective because of the way that people process information. So for high value decisions, right? So say an election, many people have already made up their mind. We apply our biases to information first. So these sorts of techniques never really end up fooling people or having like a major impact. What people use these tools for, like deepfakes for, is more creating memes. And then when you create memes, it's not to fool people, you're kind of creating caricatures of people. So I think to a certain extent, we've kind of gotten a little bit distracted. There are real threats from deepfakes for non-consensual pornography, for just their use in harassing people. So there are those types of attacks, and of course, the same technology for creating deepfakes can be used for spoofing voices. There's been some social engineering attacks that use the technology, so it's certainly not completely benign. But I think the effect on elections is kind of overstated, and a lot of people are creating memes with the technology instead of convincing fakes. Now, as far as I'm not a fan of deepfake detectors. I don't think they work overly well, and I think that it's a cat and mouse game. But if you even take a step back, it almost doesn't matter. Like if somebody's creating a meme, it's already fake, so the detector's almost beside that point. However, I saw a recent instance where a deepfake detector actually took a photo, right, that really happened and said that it was faked. So it could be that people use the detector to convince people that things that actually happened didn't happen. Once again, you're still applying your biases first, so you could say, hey, obviously that doesn't make any sense to me, but it's an interesting time. And I think people forget we've had fake things on the internet since the internet was invented and the world didn't fall apart. I will, maybe I should state when deepfakes when they actually fool people. So deepfakes can fool people when it doesn't really matter. So people believed the Pope in a puffer jacket image because nobody really cared about the Pope or his jacket. People, the Katy Perry's dress, for instance, fooled people because nobody cared about Katy Perry or her dress. We didn't have, inbuilt biases that would cause us to, dig further in or to question what we saw. So in non-high stakes scenarios, they'll still continue to fool people because we just look at the photo and we're like, oh, that's a puffy jacket, and the Pope is wearing it. So yeah.
So when it comes to audio visuals, one of the first things, or the de facto, is let's do DRM.
Yeah.
That will help us in, do you think this is an effective strategy for deepfake in any way, detection or mitigation?
So part of the problem with and I haven't read through the whole thing yet, but there's a new law. It's the California AI law that people aren't actually talking about. There's actually a deepfakes law, and I saw some of the all the content has to be digitally watermarked and verified. There's so many things, we don't even have these standards yet. Yeah. So there's so many things, it's almost impossible for a company to comply. And unfortunately, that's a side effect of kind of overhyping the technology. So it's good to have kind of, watermarks and other detection or other identification built in from the generation phase. But, you have to ask yourself, how easy, watermarks can be removed. And you have to have systems for verification where everybody plays by the same standards. Yes. So it has to be kind of across the board, and you have to get all of these companies to kind of agree to implement the standard. And I think if you really take a step back, what are we trying to protect? And is that the best way to go about it? So, you have the detectors and you have the watermarking folks, and they both want to win. So we'll see where it heads, I guess. But yeah.
So what would your advice be to either ML model producers or AI consumers in terms of specific best practices or things that they can do, like do this, don't do this, do this?
Sure. So I think one of the first things that you have to do is look at the use case that the technology is being applied to and say, is this a valid use case where the cost of failure is reasonable? There's many use cases where, it's not the end of the world if something fails. And of course you can experiment with anything, but you have to kind of be careful that, the data you're experimenting with matches the data in the real world, because that's kind of how we get into trouble. We take things that work well in the lab and we try to deploy them in the real world, and the real world is filled with edge and corner cases that these systems just don't handle well. So I think doing an inventory, kind of understanding where you're trying to apply the technology is first and foremost, and looking at the criticality of the applications it's applied to. So that's step one, knowing what you're working on, knowing what it's applied to. Then doing an actual, so I call them threat and risk assessments. They're kind of like, you're looking at the risks and the threats both. So it's not really a threat modeling activity. It's not really a risk assessment activity. It's kind of a little mixture of both. Just to kind of dig in to make sure that the system's actually architected well, that you're not going to have any inadvertent data leakage, that you have, if you're using like a vector database or something to do RAG architectures, that you don't have sensitive data in there that everybody in the system, shouldn't have access to, because they're going to have access to it now. To look at those types of things. If you have any mitigations built in, make sure that those mitigations are at least semi-effective for what you're trying to do. And then after you go through that exercise, you can then do some actual testing, some security testing, to make sure that these controls that you put in place are at least functioning the way you think they are, and that before you deploy the system, in a production environment, that you've kind of identified different issues around AI security, AI safety issues, if it affects the use case, and all of those types of things, which is kind of like, there's a whole lot of application security in AI security. Yeah. These systems don't exist in a vacuum. They're hosted, they have data storage, you have logging, you have all of those things around there. So you really have to kind of look at the system from an AppSec perspective as well as a quote unquote AI perspective, to make sure that you're getting close to the level of resilience and that you need.
All right. So I get it that you need to do AI security, but you also need to look at application security as well, because these systems are not running in silos, right? So
Correct.
you need to do, don't throw away a rule book.
Yes, exactly. Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to an attacker how they get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you close one door, another door opens. So you have to make sure that you're being proactive. So you could make sure your system operates as well as possible in isolation, and you deploy it, and next thing you know, it's a cloud issue that allows an attacker to get in, or some other type of issue.
That was a great discussion. Thank you for joining us, Nathan.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We were speaking with Nathan Hamiel on AI safety and security concerns. This is Aseem Jakhar signing off.